I'm Pepper Chambers. If you want to learn more about my play, The End of the Line, and Antaeus' zip code plays, please watch this video. I fell in love with theater when I think it was sixth grade, and we were doing this school play. What is it that I've got spurs that jingle, jingle, jingle? That song, whatever played includes that song. I remember singing that and being on stage singing it. And I was like, this is fantastic. I love it. And so from there, then I just started to love the storytelling of it and the make believe of how you're literally watching something, but it's something else. So I think I'll say from sixth grade on is when I knew I had to be a part of theater. And then it's also like being a part of LA theater or being a part of theater in general. Gosh, it's the same thing. I just love being able to tell stories, and I love doing it in the atmosphere of being on stage, where there's just, this thing is real, but it's not, and imagination and excitement and connecting with audiences and feeling them, listen and laugh and cry with you. So it's just something that's always been a part of me that I can't live without. I fell in love with writing when I was around 11 years old. My parents took us to the Renaissance Festival. I'm from Wisconsin, Kenosha, and we went to the Renaissance Festival. And there I got this, the flower crown with the ribbons, and then my brothers got 2 swords. And we came home, and I wrote this play about this damsel that has to be rescued, and I forced my brothers to be in the play and learn lines. And we did it in our backyard, like under this apple tree that we had there. And I made programs, and then my parents were the only ones in the audience. And that feeling of like, oh, I can take this thing and I can create this world, and people will sit and watch, and we're performing. And then I knew, I was obsessed with it from then on, like just always imagining what story can I tell? Like, where can I be? And I realized environmental theater, because we were outside, and I still to this day love performing in different sort of spaces. I wrote a play that takes place in a home, and we traveled throughout the house and told the story like in the kitchen, in the living room, and it ended on top of the rooftop. So I realize now, like, I've just always loved and I'm absolutely obsessed with any kind of theater. My process for writing and from idea to being on stage kind of is an interesting thing. So for that play I just mentioned that happened in the house, my brother, it was actually his idea, and he's like, we need to include some sort of musical performance that ends on the rooftop. And so from there, at the time, I was dealing with I was looking into fertility and actual egg donation. And so I thought about this woman that was going through this whole thing, and her husband wasn't on board with her, and she felt super selfish. And so I took that nugget of a story, and then I put it in the music world, where her husband was a music manager, and I just turned it into this sort of thing. So I love looking at, my process usually starts with some sort of a real life moment. I usually make commentary on something that's going on, whether it's fertility at that stage, to even, I'm working on a play on white supremacy, to even fun things. But I usually start with some kernel of an idea. Another play I wrote was about Billie Holiday, and who is Billie Holiday without the gardenia? And I was working on that character in an acting class. And so the idea came to me like, does anyone really know who she is? So I wrote a play where she can't say who she is, but we have to learn who she is. So I dealt with that. And then from there, from the idea, then it's usually dialogue. I love words, and I hear my characters speaking to me, like they're talking to me. And so then I try to get those words out, and then I craft from there. I build the world around them and what they're saying. And that's usually what I do. And then I end up producing a lot of the work that I write. So from there, then it's, the excitement of what space and, set design and all of that stuff. So, but usually that one idea of something that I want to talk about. So I love vintagey stuff. So there's a play called You Can't Take It With You. And my mom introduced me to that play, and I saw it the first time on PBS, I think years and years ago. And so I live in North Hollywood now, and ago when Antaeus was in North Hollywood, they did that play. And I was like, oh my God, my favorite play. So I went and saw it, and I just loved the production. It was in this intimate space, so it had this beautiful intimate feel, and that play is running around up, down, upstairs, downstairs. There's explosions and all this stuff, and I just fell in love with how they did it. And from there on, and my friends were in it, and so from there on, I always kind of paid attention to what they were doing. And then over the years, it's always been proximity, just going to watch things, and I'd never applied for anything. And then during pandemic, they had some openings, and I applied, and I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm part of it. And the zip code plays, again, because I love this vintagey thing, I love radio plays. And then I was like, oh, I want to do that so badly. And then I just, I got super fortunate and was chosen to be a part of it. But they've been a part of my theater going experience probably since I've been here. I came here in 2004, so around, that time, I'll say. I became involved with the Antaeus Playwrights Lab during pandemic, and it's one of those things where, for me, I mentioned that I end up producing a lot of my own work. So as my career in Los Angeles sort of took its journey, I sort of stopped applying for things. I just started to feel like it wasn't for me, and as a Black woman, sometimes I just felt like my voice wasn't wanting to be heard, or I just sort of got discouraged. And so that's why I really started producing my own things. So during pandemic, I had a shift in myself, and I'm like, if you don't participate, how can you, if you don't try, how can you participate? And so I saw that, that they were having an open submission or something like that. And so I gave it a shot, and I'm really thankful that I was chosen to be included and be a part of their voice and part of their, I'll say, movement. I feel it as a movement because they do a lot in the community, in my opinion, and give voice to a lot of different people. So I wanted to be a part of that, and a lot of my friends are involved, whether actors or whatnot. So I just felt like I wanted to be in there with them. But pandemic was really a shift for me, where it's like, no, just stop being on the sidelines, what I consider the sidelines, even though I'm busy with my own things, but stop being on sidelines and put your voice out there so you can speak. I heard about the Zip Code Plays because I am in another theater group, Circle X Emerging Playwrights group, and Kari Wyatt is in that group. And he mentioned that he had the Zip Code Plays. He sent us the link to it. And of course, my mind was blown. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a radio play. And like, And so I listened and I loved it. But that's how I was introduced. And I knew I had to give it a go somehow, some way, be a part of it. So my play, End of the Line, started out as a 10-minute play, also for Antaeus. So they were doing submissions for a 10-minute play. And again, this was all during pandemic. I was like, I'm going to write a story. So I wrote a story that's, of course, loosely based on myself and my husband, and this couple is sitting on the porch getting drunk on a Tuesday afternoon, and she starts to lose it because he's not listening to her, and but they laugh and they hug and they kiss at the end. So I had that in mind. And then I also had a more serious topic in mind. So I am very close with the folks over at Lower Depth Theater Ensemble. And right before pandemic, I forgot the month, let's just say it was September, October of 2020, they did a play called Safe Harbor by Tara Palmquist. And that was through they have a commission series on violence, and the topic was on sex trafficking and human trafficking. So I was a part of the development process in terms of literally just helping and being there and listening to Tara's words about these two girls who are trafficked. And through that, we also had experts coming in and talking to us about it. So since last year, or 2020, I'll say, it was very much on my mind. How do I get involved? How do we watch for signs? And literally, like I said, I live in North Hollywood, and there's a coffee shop over here. And one day there was a woman there, and my instinct was like, I know she's being trafficked. What do I do? And it was this terrible, awful freak out moment of not knowing what to do and seeing she's in this situation and feeling absolutely helpless and terrified at the same time. So in that moment, I was able to kind of get her, a coffee and talk to her a little bit. And so that experience is what I brought into my play. And I know that many of us, we see these people on the street, these people meaning not those people, but people on the street, and you're just not certain sometimes of what is going on in their lives, and you're sitting there with your coffee and, your sunglasses, living this life, and everything is not maybe great for you, but something is really going on with them. And so I just wanted to shine a light on awareness and being aware of what's going on in our community, and also finding the tools to actually help people that actually need our help. So end of the line, the main story of it is there's a woman, she's having some cocktails on her porch with her husband here in North Hollywood, and all of a sudden she hears a commotion downstairs, and she runs down there and she tries to help this woman who's in trouble. And it turns out that she learns, she has the thought about herself and who she's really trying to help, if it's the woman or herself. My team, our team, the team is fantastic naturally. So our director is Greg Daniel. And again, he's one of the co-founders of Lower Depth Theater Ensemble. So I got really lucky in terms of Greg is already associated with Antaeus. And so I got lucky that he said yes, that he would direct this wonderful piece. So Greg came on to the piece, and then the rest of the actors are obviously from the group. And so we have Tamara, and we have Rob, and we have Millie/Mildred. And so Tamara and Rob are the couple, and Millie is the woman in trouble. And they are absolutely fantastic, just in terms of the essence of the characters, because it's all audio. And they really understood what I was trying to get across in terms of not just the humor, because you have to have humor even in these tense moments, but also the love of the character, the love between the husband and wife, and then the delicate intimacy and another type of love for these two Black women that are in very different economic and just sort of life situations and how they connect. So all three of them are just fantastic, which you'll hear. And then how about the audio? So Jeff Gardner, as everyone knows, I learned so much, so much, like little things like, okay, so if you're, if as a writer and if you want someone to take a sip, not just the sound, but when do they take a sip? So do they take a sip before? And then I said such and such and such and such. Or is it I such and such and such and such? And Jeff was like, okay, so if you put that moment here, it sets up this type of drama. If you put it here, it puts a space. So I learned so much about the technique, but also the storytelling that is in sound, that I don't even know how to explain the excitement I have of working on this and the knowledge that Jeff brought. He's so brilliant. And it's an art form that I feel is sort of lost, and I feel like he's got a great handle on it. And it's great at communicating to all of us, whether direction for Greg to direct the actors or for me and how to write it into the script. And then of course for the actors to execute. So it was absolutely fantastic. So the difference that I'm finding between writing a regular stage play and a radio play is that you're thinking of it literally just in a different way. So you're thinking about the sound effects. So literally you're writing in SFX, like sound effects, and you might say, heels walking on the concrete. But then you get into what type of heels, like is it a chunky wood heel? Is it a spiky heel? Because you think like those make different sounds. And also we know that type of heel is going to be related to your character. So like if you're in the spike heel, is it a woman that's like, in a business suit and blah, blah, blah? Or if it's a chunky heel, is she kind of, like grungy woman walking through the city. So you get really specific in the type of sound and then where you want it to go and how you want it to be used. And so that's just one part, is the sound effect. And then within there, you're thinking about how sound informs your audience about what's going on. So for example, I have a cafe scene, and there were things like we put in the bell of the door, for the door opening and closing. So then you would know, okay, you have this feeling of like, this is a busy cafe. There's people coming and going. And then the sound behind us, we have the sound of a chair scraping across the floor. And that got really specific. Is it a wood floor? Is it a wood chair on a concrete floor? Is it a metal chair on wood? And you start thinking about those sounds. And as you're writing for that medium, your imagination just explodes in another way. So I still may have written for a stage play. I still may have written that, they're sitting in a metal chair. But now for the stage play, for the radio play, I'm like, ooh, when do I want to hear that specific sound and why? And is it fast? Like, is the character mad? So, you get a quick sound, or is it slow because someone's creeping in? There's just all these things that you can bring in and play with. But it's specific. Like you can't just be willy-nilly with it. You have to say, like I said, the metal chair on the wood, because that says something. It tells you where you are. And you just get another toy box of specifics to play with in this medium. I would say, yes, it is another character, the sound and the audio and the directions. I want the audience, after listening to End of the Line, what I really want is for people to have an awakening, to have an awareness, and to really pay attention to community. I feel that we are all here, we're living on, especially in a big city like LA, like we are living on top of each other, and we're not brushing each other like we are in New York, but we're all together, this microcosm. And instead of just sort of putting your blinders on and walking like this, I just want people to open up and to pay attention and to look at our biases and remove them when we can, and understand when they are at play. And I just want us to have to make our human connection deeper. And that's what I hope people will feel when they listen to this play. And I'm laughing because there's humor too. So I do hope that they get a couple chuckles in the beginning. I'm so excited about this whole project. So all of the writers, they're just fantastic. And so we helped each other out in the beginning, and we kind of swapped with each other in our first drafts. So I'm trying to remember all the details. So I'm most excited just to hear what they have to say, because everyone is so brilliant. I'm like, I'm so curious to see like what they wrote about. But Elizabeth's play is about bingo, and I got to read an early draft of that. So I'm so curious to hear like how the bingo sounds come in, and then the ladies speaking. And then Sean's play is about, it takes place in West Hollywood, where I used to work. So I'm interested, I don't want to give too much about his, but I want to hear like how West Hollywood comes through, like the West Hollywood that I know. So I'm super excited for that. And then, so the bingo, and then the others I have not read. So I don't know. So I'm just as excited as everyone else to see what's coming, but I don't know. I'm excited. It's going to be cool. People should listen to the Zip Code plays because of actually many different reasons. LA is super, super diverse. And I don't know that people always get a chance to experience that. And what I mean by that is literally, we get into our routines, and we sort of, you don't go to Echo Park, you don't go to North Hollywood, you don't go to Westwood because it's too far for driving, or this or that, or this or that. And we tend to only peripherally examine, peripherally kind of get a feel for what neighborhoods are. And more than that, the people that live there, and more than that, the people that kind of created those neighborhoods. And so I hope that through this art that you get to get deeper, that people will get deeper into what the neighborhoods are. And, even for my North Hollywood play, I've got like one section of North Hollywood is what I'm examining. I don't even talk about culture. I don't talk about like who founded this area. I don't talk about the inhabitants. There's just so much richness going on in LA, and I just hope that these give a little bit of a piece where people feel like, I'll go explore that. I will look into that community, not just go and take from it, but go there. And if you do have a coffee, sit down and talk to people and look who really lives there, and just soak it up in a way, as opposed to this sort of this like consumer way that we have of either like driving through a town and making opinions about it, or maybe grabbing some food and taking it home and not really getting involved. It's a roundabout way of saying, I hope that by listening to the zip code plays that we learn more about each other and about community. So the walking tours, I haven't done one yet. I just know that they exist. So for the walking tours for North Hollywood, I do so hope that, oh my gosh, I'm getting excited about the possibilities because, so I literally live near Lankershim and like Chandler Boulevard. So right by the end of the Red Line, which is why it's called the play, The End of the Line. So I hope that the walking tour sort of starts at the end of the line here and then goes up Lankershim towards, or goes south on Lankershim and then goes on Magnolia, either east or west, and then goes down Vineland and then circles around in some sort of way. And the reason I say that is because there are a lot of small businesses that have cropped up along that path. And I think, number one, that's really cool to see in terms of what's coming. Number two, I don't look at them, say this as a negative way, but, all of the neighborhoods in Los Angeles are experiencing the rise of people experiencing homelessness. And so that particular walk too will show exactly how this neighborhood is also changing in terms of that demographic. And I think it's very important that we pay attention and that we see how people are living and we're not stepping over people and we're not ignoring what's happening. And by taking that walk too, you'll also see what's going on in this neighborhood. And on top of that, there are some really cool signs on the signposts along that way that show the history of North Hollywood. So like the Weddington family that came and the Lankershim family and all this kind of stuff. So there are some actual historical things up that you can learn about if you took that route. So Hamilton should be the rule, not the exception, and why we should have more voices, such as even my own in theater, because we all, no matter who we are, we all have stories to tell. And that's number one. Number two is we know darn well that many stories have not been told from voices from people that look like me and above and beyond, below and around and all this stuff. So I believe that we absolutely can always learn from each other, and we learn through art and we learn through people speaking about their experiences. So I can't say it enough. Like if we don't have a multitude of people speaking, we still only hear one voice. And unfortunately, I do believe in Los Angeles that has been, a problem that we've had, where a lot of the plays are by mostly, I'll just say it, like mostly white artists. Fine. I have a lot of friends that work. That sounds funny. Like I have a lot of Black friends. I have a lot of white friends. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. What I am saying is that I have so many friends that are getting their voices out there, but then, then they're speaking, but then like the casting doesn't include a Black person or a Latina or someone Asian or whatever. And it's because the person that's doing the writing, their experience doesn't include us. And that's not helpful to anyone, I don't think. An experience is an experience. I'm not faulting them for that. But what I am saying is that we need to be inclusive of multiple voices so we can literally learn about what people are going through. If I hadn't been exposed to the human trafficking and the sex trafficking that is literally going on outside my door, I wouldn't be able to write about it. I wouldn't be able to share that with others and help educate people about something that is actually happening. And it just goes for whatever the topic is. If it's only coming from one person, we're really consistently only seeing one view. And I will add on to what's happening. What also has happened is it comes from the reviewing side too. So a lot of the people that are reviewing theater are not people of color, and so the voices that are reviewing the plays are still only coming from this view, and they think a play is good or bad based on that perspective, as opposed to someone that's coming from another world, another life, reviewing that play and giving a different life to it. And I'm a huge proponent of we just have to have more voices all over: costuming, reviewing, directing, stage managing, writers, actors. It's, theater is supposed to be about community. It's supposed to be about all of us. And I think we really have to keep working hard to make that happen. I would say the Antaeus Playwright Lab is important to them and to the community because there are a multitude of voices. Now, again, I'm new, so I'm less than a year old in it, and I say that because I think it's also been communicated that they are going through a change of being inclusive and really trying to make a concerted effort to make change. So that reason alone is huge, and it just actually gives me chills to actually be a part of it at this time. So I believe, before the mission, this is still part of the mission, but it was more about classical work and, like Shakespeare will say, and you could have a Shakespeare play with a diverse cast, but it still wasn't necessarily, it's still Shakespeare, it's still the same stuff. And not necessarily saying anything, new, I'm generalizing here, but I think that they are really making a movement towards speaking differently. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about being a part of it. I'm excited about supporting it and meaning, listening to other writers, doing what I need to, volunteering, like support, it comes in a lot of different ways. So I'm excited for what's to come. And of course, for the hard work that they've all done in the past. You don't get to where they are now without a lot of the work that they have already done. So I'm excited for what's coming, and I applaud the hard work that they are doing. So other playwrights that aren't involved with Antaeus, I would say, do what I did. So if you're standing on the sidelines, and number one, if you are a complainer, or a person that comes from a place of complaining about the change, they're not being changed, then I think this is a time for you to, open your mouth and get involved. And again, get involved however you can. It may not be from writing, it may be volunteering, it may be listening, it may be showing up. It may be whatever it is, but I think it's important now to show up, to get involved, to get close. I think we are all needed right now to not be standing on the sidelines and either this is bad, oh, I hate it, or keeping our mouths closed, which is what I did a lot before. I was like, oh, I'm not political. I don't know what I want to say. I don't want to speak up. I'll just stay over here. No. There's no more time for that. And we need to, so I just keep saying, we just need to get close, comment, make yourself known, give yourself a voice. And all I can say is this, like, we just need to keep coming together rather than being off on our own, trying to figure things out. As of now, I think that Antaeus is a great partner in the community because of the many things that they do. Besides just, literally putting on plays, which is a feat in itself, there's a multitude of programs from, and I'm not sure exactly what's public and what's not, but for example, they have a book club where they speak about different pieces. They dissect plays. There's other things within the community that they do. And so it's not just this sort of this boxed thing of like, this is our world and this is what we're doing and we're only serving ourselves. It seems as though the goal has always been to serve the community, to serve with things that are important and things that are done well. It's one thing to like put something on and it's not of quality, because then it's like, oh, that was terrible and I paid for it. But in a sense, it's of quality that is serving a purpose of not just entertaining, but educating and lifting a lot of people. And I mean, behind the scenes, actors, stage directors, all of this stuff, like lifting everyone up and going like this to the community. So I think that that's why they are important to the Los Angeles theater scene. Theater companies are so important because it's entertainment. I mean, there's so theater that even when plays are not, super diverse or super inclusive or whatever, there's always a message. There's always something that can be learned. And whether it comes from joy or from pain or some crazy story, there's always something that touches your spirit or your soul. And that's just why theater is important, and why we literally has to exist in life. And so, if we don't support this sort of thing, I know it's cliche, but literally, like, something dies, like something. We have to do it. I have no other words except to say that we cannot let theater die. We cannot let the experience die. We can't let, even with COVID, again, if we have to be outside sitting in somebody's backyard doing a play, we must do it. It's not an option not to, because art is our life. It speaks for us. It speaks to us. It helps us be better human beings. So yeah, I can only speak from my own perspective and my involvement, getting involved at the time that I did. And so I do feel that this company is really just trying to be the change that we are all asking for. And in some cases demanding, as a person of color, a lot of us have been excluded for a long time. And I just feel that this company is making changes to just recognize it, even just to recognize it and say that this is a problem and how are we going to address it, I think is a big step. And yeah, I'm not sure how to. I appreciate the efforts that are being made to speak about the change that Los Angeles theater, I believe, needs. And so I'm very happy that this company is doing that and to be a part of it. I am Pepper Chambers. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please walk your way over, get your way over, run over, click over, do whatever you need to do to enjoy the Zip Code plays and everything else that is offered with this lovely theater company. Thank you.